right, a very good morning to you, our gentle viewer back at home. I know you've been waiting for us for the longest time this morning for us to get started, but finally we are here for a conversation related to money. You know, Biashara Tuesday is a show that is always keeping you updated, always informing you on matters business. How do you stay at the top of your game if you're a business person, an entrepreneur, or planning to get in that field? So this morning, I'm joined by very brilliant minds, and they will be helping us understand how well do we move from surviving to actually living our lives. How well can we save our money? How well can we be good managers of our money? Because most of the time, I know there is this narrative that money comes and goes, but then how do we make use of it as it's there? There's also a narrative that you only live once. You know, if you're in this generation, you know something called YOLO, you only live once. So most of the time, we tend to use our money in ways that we are living for now and not minding what happens in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years. And this mostly affects the youth in our society, whether you're a student or just a young person out there, and you probably have your only stomach as your only responsibility. Like, your stomach is the only thing that you can worry about. You are your own responsibility. If you don't have a child or anything that makes you grounded, most of the time we tend to forget that we have a future. So helping us understand this conversation this morning, we are joined by CPA Dorothy Chepkoech and Elvis Maina. They're experts in the finance field. They'll be helping us understand how well can we save, what is a good debt and what is a bad debt, and how well can we step at the top of the game. Allow me to allow my guests introduce themselves this morning. I'll begin from you, Dorothy.
Okay, good morning. My name is Dorothy Chepkoech. I am a certified public accountant, a certified internal auditor, certified risk management assurer, and I'm currently finalizing on my certified secretary. So my background is, I was a student here many years ago, and I did finance. I majored in finance, BCom finance, and the reason I took it was because I believed it would teach me how to invest, to teach me how to be an investment guru, and investment is about just multiplying what you have. So I'm happy to be here and happy to discuss the lessons I've learned over time. Thank you.
So far, how is it working for you?
Because saving is a habit, or rather a lifestyle you create. At this point in my life, I'm thinking phase 2. Phase 1 is up to 40, right? So phase 2 is past 40. So at this phase in my life, I believe it's become part of me. So it's almost automatic that I'll save. And there are ways to force yourself to actually save. And not only save, but to put it somewhere so that it earns you an income. So I would say at this point, it's become a habit. And it is a habit that is useful and creative for me as a professional and as a person who is also an entrepreneur.
All right, you're talking of the fourth floor, getting to the fourth floor. From your younger self, your younger 21-year-old, the young girl, what difference can she see from you right now that could probably change her life before she gets to the fourth floor?
So interestingly, at 21 is when I think I got my first job. But how I look at things at 40 and at 21 is different. So at 21, you never think of what are these other additional sources of income I can pursue without jeopardizing the big goal. So at that point, it's your first job. So you don't have many demands on your salary. You don't have many asks. You may not even have a big vision of how will it be when I turn to 40. But when you get to 40, you realize every stage of your life requires a different version of you. So if I'd known then at 21, it means there are things I would have done to probably make myself earn more money, because at that time you have more time, you have more, people are willing to listen to you more, and there are not a lot of demands on you. So that means you can save more, and you can invest more, and you can use many other channels of earning income, because you're still young and energetic. So if I'd known then this, what I know now, I'd probably be a millionaire or billionaire.
All right, Elvis, you're hearing that. If she'd known that, she'd probably be a millionaire right now. I think we're almost the same age group, and most of the time they say that if you're between 20 and around, let's just push it forward to 30, you probably have a high range of making mistakes, whether it's business mistakes, adventure in terms of business, what best works for you. You have time. If you begin now, probably in the next 10 years, you're going to be somewhere better than today. As a fourth year student, sorry, I didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Okay, so thank you. So my name is Elvis Maina. I'm a fourth year student here in Kenyatta University. I'm pursuing Bachelor of Commerce in Finance option. Yeah, so also I'm a certified QuickBooks expert. Thank you.
Goodness. All right, now we are talking about the young age. How do you find this knowledge relevant in your life? Because as a young person, it's very difficult to save. How do you take this?
Okay, so savings, I would say that savings is an initiative which each and every person should begin with. Like, you don't save because you're not supposed to be saving just to maybe live a better life in future, but it's for your own good. So savings as a young person should be an initiative out of your own will. I believe that for me, what has worked for me is that the moment I started networking with the corporate people, that is the moment when I understood that savings can open either your maybe your future life or maybe something of that sort. So I believe that for a young person, you need to start saving as early as possible, because later in the 40s, maybe you're not sure of job security or any of that sort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are here at a young person, you should begin saving. A typical young person in Kenya will probably be sent by the parents probably 1,000 bob a week. And on top of that, you can, if you're lucky, you'd get help. In the current funding model, if you are lucky, you'll even get that help. So most of the time you get that a young person probably is depending on the parent. If it's an industrious person, they'll probably get this, we have a generation of gig jobs. So you'll probably get a gig that every weekend you're getting at least 1,000 bob or 2,000 shillings. So with this little amount of money, you're in that space. Okay, let me not judge your financial muscles, but talking from a point of a typical young person who is in school or a typical young person who is hustling out there, they're probably getting a maximum of 20,000 as revenue. How do you save from that with this economy?
Okay, one of the things to save from maybe a low income person can be, first you need to budget your income. I think that is the baseline of each and every saving perspective. So you know what are your expenses. So you need to, there is something in economics we say that, I can't remember very well, but it's something which you prioritize or you group your expenses or your needs based on what is most important. So if you do that, you'll be able to maybe have a percentage. Also, there is a rule about 20%. You need to save out of what you're earning. Despite the income you're getting, you're supposed to save 20% of what you get. So I think if you take those two initiatives, you'll be able to get something which you're saving.
Mm-hmm. From your perspective, Dorothy, what do you think prevents the young people from practicing prudence, investment, or generally managing their finances well?
Well, to begin with, that can be a bit too much to ask of the younger people. Because when you're young, you're young. I think you tell yourself when you're older that I wish I was younger. Because when you're young, you want to experience life, you want to enjoy life. So it looks like it's hampering saving, but in essence, you're passing through life. So But if indeed the young person, like I was young here, and luckily at that time I had help, I actually managed to save enough to take myself through the summer program. Remember when in KU you used to have the summer program where you don't take the long holidays, you remain in school. So I would save my help enough to cover the fee for the summer program. So that means I finished my college in 3 years instead of 4. So what would hamper, because my life was, I was like a hermit. So you go to church, go to library, go to your room. So for me, that created, I would say it's the thing that is driving you. It's the vision. It's what you want to achieve. So most of us come from a humble background. So the thing pushing you is I want to live different. I want my future life to be different. So it means you're focusing on what can I do to make it better. And that would drive you to save and try and do anything that would add value to your career, to your journey in becoming a better version than where you come from. Now, what would hinder the generation at the moment is, I don't think things are as tough as during our time. You were born into a time when there's a bit of everything is there. There's technology, so you almost feel like there's really, people don't understand that I went to school barefoot. It's not a thing that is there now. That means the things that would stop a young person in my time from saving may not be similar to now. But mostly it would be you want to go to Java instead of going to K1. You want to dress in the latest Nike shoes instead of comfortable shoes for going to class. You want to keep up with the Joneses, or it's simply there's no goal. Everything is there. So those are the things that can stop you from saving. But just to add on what Elvis was saying, the 50-30-20 rule. So 50%, you have to teach yourself now. 50-30-20. So 50% for the needs, the things you must do. Then the 30% for the wants, the things that neither here nor there. Then the 20% is for the saving. And you consider, to help you think of saving as important, you think of it as I'm paying myself. So all these other things, the 20% I'm paying myself. So that will, it's about mindset really. So sometimes it's also the mindset and the feeling that I don't have a bigger goal, so I might as well just have fun. Those are some of the impediments to saving, and mostly also not knowing, because some things you know with time. So for the young people, that can be.
I love that part you're saying, that you think of it as you're paying yourself, because most of the time you'll hear it from the young people. I don't know if, Elvis, you can attest to that, where they're saying that saving is like, or like let's say kuweka pesa mshwari ni kama kukuwa na gate, but then you don't have a fence, so you just bypass. Or someone saying that I was saving and then the money is now saving me. So most of the time you find the young people make a joke of matters of saving. From where you sit, what do you think is the biggest challenge that prevents the young people from saving?
Okay, thank you. So the biggest challenge from my own perspective is the peer pressure. That is, you find that you might end up a day, there is a trend which is trending of a shoe which you haven't worn, and you see another person, your friend, is having that shoe, and maybe it's costing around 4,000, and maybe your income is 20,000 as a student, although maybe that is what you have been given. So you'll end up purchasing that shoe at 4,000, then forgetting to prioritize the other aspects you are talking about. So I think the peer pressure of seeing the trends, the fashion trends, that is most inhibitor of savings. Yeah, so apart from that, maybe I can add is that some people are not well conversant. They're not financially literate, that is. So you find that they're not aware about what they're expected to do with their finances, such that you find a young person earning his or her salary, then that is, I'm speaking of the person who has just gotten a job. Then the first salary, the first thing he or she does is buying the households. That is the first thing. But for me, I think I'm a bit aware of what I'm expected to do, and my own perspective at the moment cannot be the same as back in maybe my first year, second year. Right now, I've changed. Thank you.
I think at that point I'm a victim, because by the time I was moving out, the only thing I was thinking about, for your time, I think the biggest flex of a young person was having your own place. But for this generation, it's not just having your own place, it's having a furnished place. I think that's the pressure as a generation we are facing. As a country, we have a problem of living within our means. We have a country, at the moment we have a debt of around 12 trillion, and we are borrowing to fund our budget. At the moment also, if we look at salaries, public servants have exceeded the 1 million mark. So we are spending around 48% of our GDP on paying salaries. So we have a problem of living within our means. And that means we source for a credit, we go into debts for that. So how do we differentiate not just in a national level, but at a personal level? How do we know that at this point we are taking a positive debt, and at this point this is not a good debt that we are taking, whether it's in investment? How do we differentiate that?
So debt from the finance class, we call it leverage. So a good debt is one that is leveraging you to either earn more income or to take you to a new operating level. A bad debt is one where you borrow Peter to pay Paul. Most of the time you have Fulizard, you have Mshwari, so you're trying to keep yourself away from being demanded from all the perpetual apps. So that's the simplest way to describe a good debt and a bad debt. A good debt will take you to a higher level. It will leverage you. It will give you an additional income. And most of the time, if you take a loan to buy an asset or to invest in a business, most of the time those are things that will generate more income. So at some point it will still pay itself off. A bad debt is where you're taking a debt, you're paying another debt, it's multiplying your indebtedness, and there if it creates for you a crunch where at some point you have nowhere to run to, then you might end up with the Shylocks who then catapult your problems into an exponential distress. So that's a simple way of describing debt. And if you actually live according to the savings principle, it means with the 20% you can build yourself a kitty or emergency where in case of something that requires you to have money, then you can borrow from yourself. It's like an emergency kitty. So for us as students, as young people starting out, the demand on our money may not be that much, and it may not be a need. It may be a want. So you don't want to go borrowing because debt comes with a cost. And most of the times we don't consider that cost. We just see that we've been given capital or liquidity, but it comes with a cost. And if you can avoid it through the saving mechanism, then it saves you all the trouble.
All right. You probably won't end up in a situation where your saving is now serving you all the time. All right. From where you sit, how do you think this debt culture is affecting the young person of this generation? We've seen this mostly with Kenyan celebrity, where some of them, we have records of them borrowing to fund their lifestyle. So how does this affect the young person?
Okay, thank you. So debt is good and is bad, is what CPA Dorothy has said. And if it's a bad debt, that is, it might end up you making some wrong choices in life and maybe misusing what you have as debt. That is the money you have gotten. And when it comes to repayment, you find you struggle and maybe you'll end up in depression or maybe stress of not getting what you're supposed to pay back. So that is one of the things that maybe debt can cause to one person. So that is the stress management. A stress which results from maybe lacking the funds to repay the debt which you have gotten. Also another thing is that the young people are maybe getting listed to the CRB. That is the most negative thing, especially it is hampering the moment when you are listed there, you're not able to get other access to other loans as a young person. And maybe the young people are very ignorant of they gotten a loan maybe from a certain mobile service provider, that debt provider, then they don't repay. Then when it comes to the moment they need the money and they didn't repay the previous loan, that is when they find themselves not getting any further assistance. Apart from that, is the virtue of the social media trolls. You find that a person who hasn't repaid, and you have seen some of the cases happening in the social media sector, where a person hasn't repaid the debt, and then the person who lent it to him or her is claiming that the person is incapable and maybe has failed to repay that. Then the crowd, the social media crowd, that is the social media people, then they come and troll you because of that. Then what ends up is stress and maybe depression.
Sure. Now, your producer is telling me that our time is running out, so I'd like to get cheat code on a saving, let me say a realistic one that probably someone can follow, if it's using technology, if there is any apps, or if there is anything that can literally help you build your saving culture. Whether it's a young person, you're old, you just struggle with saving, what practical ways can someone take as they begin this journey of saving?
So for me, the one that has worked, and is because in life you also go through the journey of a time you have, a time you don't have. But for me, it took having, because at some point during employment, you overcommit yourself. So you find yourself stuck. For me, it took a mentor who took me through a structured way of saying, for us to begin a journey of excess, you have to start by understanding your spending habits, your money personality. Remember, saving is a habit. So you have to form that habit before you even go to apps or anything. You have to form the habit. It takes about 21 days from the books I've read, Atomic Habits, but I've also practiced it. It takes about 21 days to form that habit. So start by tracking all your expenditure, because you already know how much your income is. Maintain a notebook. You can maintain it in Excel. Track for maybe say 1, 2, 3 months. Track and see, where does my money go to? Then you start analyzing based on, like what we'd said, 50% should be the needs that you can't avoid. 30% should be the other things that you need, like going to the salon, the things that make you feel good. Then 20% is saving. So after understanding your money habit, your spending habit, your personality, you start seeing, where shall I cut, where shall I reduce? Because you want to build a habit, you want to build a personality that saves. So once you form the habit, then sometimes it's hard. So you go into places like, I worked at the bank at some point, so you do money, the standing order. So when the money hits the account, it's debited directly. So such things would force you into that habit. Then for us, where we have the apps, you go into the ones that lock your savings. It means it will cost you to access it before that time. So first you form the habit, then look for mechanisms that force you into that habitual space, and then pursue that discipline. Then the more you see your savings build, then when you start seeing, I can actually invest this 1,000 bob into some shares, it will give you a feel good, which is very important when you're forming a habit. So once you get to that level, it becomes a lifestyle, which is what we are looking forward to.
All right. From your side, what's your cheat code?
Okay, so for me, at the moment, I think I will agree with what CPA Dorothy has said, the mentors. So for me, I guess I have a mentor who is guiding me through some of the savings perspectives and maybe some also life choices. Aside from that, I usually read some books about investing. That is the psychology of money. You can maybe, if you are new, you can just check it out. Also, Thinking Big is also a good book. And there are many of the books that are about investing. You can maybe check it out. Also, I've also invested also. I think not in the place of just tracking my expenses. For me, I've invested in some of the money market funds.
want us to wrap up because muda wetu umetupa kisogo, and I'd love for us to have further discussions on the psychology of money. It's something that I've seen it on social media a number of times, very many times, people saying money is energy. You know, there is the scientific side of it and there is the practical side of it. So I'd love for us, if it's possible, that sometime again we have the discussion on the psychology of money. That is, if it sits well with you. Now, to our viewers back at home, this has been a discussion on moving from surviving to actually living your life as a young person, building a culture of saving. From what you've heard from the brilliant minds that are here in studio, from CPA, Dorothy and Elvis, that is on the launch. Thank you so much for this, for you engaging with us. Coming up next in a short while will be a discussion on the state of our nation, and that is on newspaper review. See you then.